Okay, so this is what an Aston Martin Vantage interior looks like without any dashboard. And the reason it looks like that is because over the past couple of videos, I've been removing the dashboard because of this thing right here, the passenger side airbag. Now, as you guys all know by now from watching the videos, Aston Martin have manufactured the car in such a way that it's made it almost virtually impossible for a DIYer like myself to be able to repair and put a Vantage back on the road. Now in the last video I managed to remove this full dashboard with the aluminium frame despite Aston Martin saying that they use a crane to get it in and out the car. It still just seems absolutely crazy that you have to remove this full aluminium frame with all the heater matrix in there, the air conditioning and everything else, including the wiring loom, just to get to this passenger side airbag. Now, in my opinion, removing that dashboard didn't take any skill. It was just mainly hard work, but putting it back in, well, that's where the skill's gonna come in. Now, finding a replacement dashboard has become more than difficult. In fact, finding any parts for the Vantage has been more than difficult. So now that we've got the whole dashboard out, it only left us with a few options. Now, option one was to get the original dashboard fixed. Now, what I mean by this is that we replaced the passenger side airbag, which we bought from Aston Martin in the last video. This goes underneath the dashboard to replace the broken one here, and then we get the dashboard retrimmed. But that option was quickly killed. Now, anything to do with airbags in a car has got to be done properly. It's all to do with safety, and I want to make sure that the Aston Martin is as safe as it is when it left the factory, if not safer. So when I popped an email to the trimmers to say that I was popping down this dashboard to be retrimmed, they sent this email back. They basically said they would not repair this dashboard because of where the lever breaks when it opens up for the passenger side airbag. Now, on dashboards like this where the passenger side airbag is hidden beneath the lever and then when it explodes it breaks the lever, that part where it breaks is a sort of weak point in the lever and also this little plastic section here. Now, if this part of the dashboard was re-glued down and then levered over the top, it would no longer have that weak point that it needs for when the passenger airbag explodes, therefore making it unsafe. Are you guys still with me? So with that in mind, it kind of leaves us stuck. But that is where I found this baby on eBay. This is a DB11 dashboard, and I'm just hoping that this thing is exactly the same as the Vantage one, although it is Aston Martin, so we may run into a few surprises. Now, looking at the leather top, it does look pretty identical, but this is a DB11 interior and this is an Aston Martin Vantage interior. They're quite different, but the question is, do they use the same leather top as each other? Well, I for one certainly hope they do, because this is my only choice, and this choice costs me £1,400, which is insanely expensive, bringing the total cost so far to £14,504.54. But there is one difference, and that is the leather they use on the Vantage dashboard is slightly different to the one they use on the DB11. Very, very slight. I'm hoping that is the only difference, but I think we'll get away with the leather difference as it is only slight. But the first step is to start stripping the old parts off the DB11 dashboard, and it seems the person that removed this didn't realise there was 4 bolts which held the leather part to the aluminium frame and just completely ripped it off, breaking the clips. With the DB11 dashboard stripped, it's now time to tear down the Vantage dashboard, removing all the air ducting, the wiring loom and everything else that's connected to it to transfer it over to the DB11 dash. And finally, the big moment, the whole reason we had to take this whole dashboard out, the passenger side airbag. Now, this airbag is vital for safety in the real world, but when it comes to the virtual world, you should be turning to Surfshock, the famous VPN tool who have sponsored today's video. Wait, but what's a VPN tool? I'm glad you asked. Let me explain. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. So what does that mean? That means it encrypts all the data sent via the internet so no one can steal your passwords, view your online messages, or see what you're doing online. Now, public Wi-Fi is a goldmine for hackers, but not when using Surfshock. It's like having a constant bodyguard backing you up from the hackers. And that's not the only thing it can do. Let's say you're on Netflix in the UK and you want to watch the film Jaws. But unfortunately for you, it's not available. But if you go to the top right-hand corner, click on Surfshark, change your browsing location to Germany, go back on Netflix, give it a refresh, search for Jaws, and what do you know, it's there to watch. So to get Surfshark today, click the link in the description box below, and when you use code Matt Armstrong, that's going to get you 83% off, plus an extra 3 months for free. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there is literally no risk. Thanks, Surfshark. Next up, reassemble the DB11 dashboard, or now to be known as the Vantage dashboard. And here you can just about see the difference in the leather around the speaker surround and the dashboard. It's only slight. And now it's time for the new dashboard to be married with the aluminium frame. Maybe here, Matt Armstrong was here 2022 smiley face. It had to be done. If anyone has to go through that torture of removing this again, they've got to know that I went through it as well. Now, I'd say the most difficult part about reinstalling a dashboard isn't necessarily bolting it up, it's figuring out where all the wiring routes. All the wiring plugs lead to somewhere, but if you route them the wrong way, they won't reach to the plugs that they're supposed to go in, or they could end up trapped. And the last thing you want to do is leave something unplugged or a wire trapped underneath the dashboard and not be able to get to it after you install it into the car. Now, I've double and triple checked that I've plugged in the new airbag, and with that done, I can start bolting the leather dashboard to the aluminium frame. And I'm getting excited now because the dashboard is starting to look more complete. But the thing I didn't realize at the start is that Aston Martin actually build these dashboards up before they go into the car. So that's exactly what I'm about to do. Now, if we actually manage to install the dashboard today, we can find out 1, whether the headlights work, and 2, whether that pyrotechnics fuse from a Volvo car works as well. So we nearly have one completed dashboard and it's looking good. But before we actually start lifting it in, we've got this thing to put in, which is the airbag ECU. If you remember on the Range Rover, we have to reset this, whereas on this car, it's pretty much exactly the same. Now, I did send this off to get reset, and the guys actually mentioned that it had already been reset. So when we actually plugged in the auto in the first video and then reset that crash data, it must have already reset it. So we didn't actually need to send it away. But if we don't plug this in, well, you can't get to it without the dash out, really. So this goes in, and this is one of the very first things we put in before we put the dashboard in. And now we're ready to lift the dashboard in. Here's the part where Aston Martin used that special crane to mount the dashboard inside the car, when really all you really need is myself and Hannah. Hannah held the dashboard in place whilst I made sure that the coolant pipes went through the firewall into the engine bay. Then I can start putting the bolts in, which mount the aluminium frame to the chassis of the car. Not forgetting to make sure that the wiring loom goes to the correct places, and that all the plugs that are visible also go into the correct places. The full dashboard is bolted to the car. We are making progress. It's just whether everything works after everything else is connected. We've still got the coolant pipes to go inside the engine bay. We've still got the center console to go in, and the steering rack, and everything else. Let's carry on. There's so much wiring everywhere, but it all routes to only one place. And once you figure out where that place is, it's pretty easy from there. Now, I found one of the most fiddly parts was actually reconnecting the aircon pipes from the engine bay back up to the dashboard. It's just a really tight fitment, and they're bolted in with 2 10mm nuts. And once you've got the aircon pipes connected, you need to connect up the 2 coolant pipes as well, which go to the heater matrix. One runs around the back of the engine and then clips in, and one goes the other side. I'm doing so well at the minute, and the dashboard is starting to look complete. And it's also bolted to the car, which is a massive sort of achievement right now. With near enough all the wiring connected and a lot of the bolts which attach the dashboard to the actual car all in place, I can start to add all the leather trims back. The tricky part about all this is that it has to go in a certain order. You could put one section in, later to realise you have to take it out to put another section back in. But now I'm onto the steering column. There's 3 electrical connectors on the steering column. I made sure that all of them were plugged in. I've got to push the steering column into the UJ, which are all marked out in the last video, to make sure that it all goes back in the same way, and then I can bolt it all back together. With the steering rack in, there is one thing that I was sort of questioning about. Now these yellow connectors you can see here, anything yellow with these sort of connectors on is to do with an airbag. And I noticed this connector down here, and I can't ever remember disconnecting anything to do with an airbag in this sort of area right down. I mean, up here, this one is for the steering wheel airbag, but that one, no idea. And actually it turns out that that plug right there is for some like European Aston Martins which require a knee airbag for like safety reasons or so, but the UK model doesn't have a knee airbag underneath the dash. It's just not got one there, but obviously it uses the same loom, which means there's actually going to be something which is not plugged in. But that's so weird. It had me stressing for like at least half an hour thinking, where the hell does that plug go? Because I cannot remember unplugging it. But we're all clear. It doesn't need to be plugged in. Let's carry on. Onto the instrument cluster. There's one electrical connector at the back for all of this, and a ridiculous amount of bolts which hold it to the dashboard. With all the bolts in and the lever placed on top of it, it is really coming together. Next step, the clock spring and the indicator stalks. As you can see, going back to what I said a minute ago, I had to actually remove the instrument cluster to put this in. And that is because it is bolted behind the instrument cluster. I also had to remove the lever underneath this as well because it's bolted there. But hey, it's all experience. If I were to do this again, I'm sure it'd be a lot quicker. And the final part of this section, beside the steering wheel, is the paddle shifters. Then it's back on into the engine bay to assemble the strut base and everything else underneath the bonnet. We are so close now. The dashboard is now in, so we can move on to the center console. Again, Aston Martin assemble all of this outside the car before fitting it in the car. And with that done, it's time to plug everything in and pop it into the car. This was super fiddly and you're working in such a tight space, but I was determined to get this finished. And we're pretty much on the final straight now. Last little things to do is to clean up the interior before putting the seats back in. I used a Hoover, then moved on to the MA leather cleaner, which of course the link's in the description box for. This conditions the leather back to a nice matte look, how it should look from factory. And it smells great. And speaking of smelling great, the next step was to make the interior smell even better by using some of the cloudburst sprays. I've been using these for a while now in multiple cars and they are a lifesaver. They replicate your favourite aftershave like Creed, 1 Million, Dior, Tom Ford even. And they're great for use in cars, shoes, offices, or anywhere it may be. You guys can also grab one of these with the link in the description, and there's a discount code in there for you to use as well. But would you believe it, the Aston Martin interior is pretty much back together, looking brand spanking new and smelling great. I can't believe it is real. Or is it? Surely not. No, please no, please no, please no, please no. No! I'm just joking. We actually did it. The full dashboard of the Aston Martin is now back in the car. I actually cannot believe I managed to get all of this back in. I just don't know. I just don't know how I've done it. This is 100% one of them moments where you just surprise yourself. Honestly, there was moments where I was taking this dash apart thinking, there's no way, one, I'm gonna get this out, and two, I'm ever gonna get it back in. And I was thinking, worst case, it will have to go to Aston Martin for them to do the rest of the job, but it's in. It is actually in. So if you're watching this thinking you don't have the skill to work on your own car, well, just use this as motivation. I literally have no qualification, no certificates, and I've managed to take out an Aston Martin dashboard and put it back in. But we are not in the all clear just yet. One step is putting in the dashboard. The second step is, does everything still work? We've still got the seats to put in and the steering wheel to put on and also the doors. So let's get that done and then we're going to test whether everything works. And we can also see whether these headlights work and the engine starts because of that Volvo pyrotechnics fuse that we installed just above the battery. So many things to find out, and it's going to be a big moment after we've installed these seats and doors. So it's in with the Aston Martin seats, which of course are fully electric. So once again, there's a bunch of wires underneath the seat. And for me to be able to bolt them in, I need the battery connecting so I can adjust the seat forward and backwards so I can access the place where the bolts slot in to the rails. So on goes the battery for the first time in a long time. Okay, so I think we have our first issue, and it's not actually to do with the dashboard. It's to do with the seats. Now, to get the seats in, I've got to be able to move them backwards to get to the front bolts. And, well, I've connected up the battery, which was low. It's on 6 volts, so we've got the jumper pack on it here. And we can see all the lights have illuminated in the center of the dash. I can click the ignition on. We've got all the lights on there. I can't put the steering wheel on yet because I've not got enough room. But I have absolutely no power going to the seats, and well, obviously I need it to put the front bolts in, and the switches for the seats are behind here, and something is telling me that I unplugged them and didn't plug them back in. I've checked the fuses for the seats, they're fine. I can only think I've not plugged those switches in, and to get those switches out I've got to take that whole center console out again. The only slight thing I'm thinking, but I just don't know, is that the doors aren't connected. And would the seats not work without the doors connected? I highly doubt it, but it is worth a try. So I'll lift the door on and then we'll see whether it makes a full circuit and maybe the seats will work after them. But I don't know, I highly doubt it, but we'll give it a go. Oh my god. Aston Martin amazes me again. I've got the door on and like, what are the chances? The seat, it now moves, so there must be something in that door with the electrical connector in there creating a full circuit with the seat. I mean, what on earth? So if you've got the doors off on the car, you cannot move your seat backwards and forward. Wow. So it actually turns out the loom with the door is actually connected to the seats, and it's something to do with this seat memory. When you open the door, the seat would move back so you can get in, and then when you sit in the seat, it will move forward to your driving position. So it is all part of one circuit randomly. But now I can move the seat back, I can put the steering wheel on. We did it. Everything is in. The dashboard, the center console, the seats, the doors. It is all on, and so far, it seems to be working. We are, of course, missing a windscreen, but that will be next. And everything here is all illuminating. It seems to be plugged in. Even the dash is lit up as well. We still have a restraint fault, but I assume, hopefully, we could just code that off with the Autel later, but we'll figure that out. Now, as most of you know, when we do a dashboard change, we always give it a score out of 10. 10 out of 10 being no bolts are left over after the dashboard has been replaced, and 0 out of 10 being that there was 10 bolts left over. Anything more than 10 bolts left over, you're in minus figures. Now, you've got to give it to me. This dashboard has been a tough one, and I've undone so many bolts, which leaves me with more of a chance of not putting in some bolts. But right here is the leftover bolts, and I could not find anywhere where these actually went to, and they are all the same type of bolt, the T30 bolt. And if I remember rightly, these were the bolts which sort of held the lever to the frame of the dashboard. And there is 6 bolts left, which actually gives me a fairly respectable 4 out of 10 for an Aston Martin Vantage dashboard change. I think that's okay, but 6 bolts, I don't know where they went. Now, a few videos ago, we fitted this front end, including these headlights, and we're pretty sure that they came out of a left-hand drive car, and they have a completely different part number to the ones that were in there, which were completely smashed. Now, you don't have to look far to find out how expensive the headlights are. This one is on eBay at 1,500 quid just for one. But I haven't been able to see whether these headlights actually work yet or not, because we haven't had the dashboard in. But now the dashboard's in, yep, we can test whether these headlights work. Okay, I am 100% expecting these headlights not to work. It's a new car. The part numbers are completely different. I mean, this car is so sensitive to anything like that. Ignition on. Have we got ignition, please? Yes, we have ignition. Here we go. Oh my God. I can see headlights working. No. They're actually working. Oh my God. My look could have changed with headlights. This seems to be the only time I bought headlights with a completely different part number, and they've actually worked. The full beam works, and just to check the indicators, they also work as well. It may not mean anything to some people, but to me, this is unreal. Still cannot believe it. Come on! Maybe, just maybe, my look has changed with headlights from today. I honestly thought that they were not going to work. Completely different part numbers on a car which is just so sensitive to part numbers and electronics and everything like that. I can't believe that's working. Even the sound of the indicator sounds expensive. Listen. Now, although the headlights work, the beam pattern of the headlights could be completely off, because we think that these headlights came off a left-hand drive car, and the left-hand drive headlights are a completely different beam pattern to a right-hand drive headlight car. The only way to find out is take it to an MOT testing centre, but so far them actually working is a massive bonus. Now, I'd like to mention, whilst it's on my mind, I'm going to be heading to a show called Gravity on the 10th of July. I'm going to have a trade stand there. I'm going to be taking 2 cars. One, maybe the Aston if we get a windscreen in and it rolls or starts by then. But if you guys wanted to come and check out all the merch and the cars and everything like that, the link is in the description box below, and I'll see you guys there on the 10th. But now we all know the next step, and that is will the Volvo pyrotechnics fuse actually work? And the only way we can find out whether it works or not is to try and start the Aston. But unfortunately for me and yourselves watching, we still don't have cooling in both of the expansion bottles in the engine bay. And these need to be vacuum filled, which is a whole other process. So you and me both will find out whether this starts or not in the next video. If you've enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out. Ready? Kevin, I'm trying to record. Oh no.
Like a drug that